There is something that mine rescue specialists learn before they ever descend below the second level. It is not in any safety manual, not covered in any certification course, not filed in any report. It is passed the way information that cannot be explained is always passed, quietly, between people who have already seen it. The rule is this: before you go below level 2, you stop. You cut every light source you are carrying, every headlamp, every torch, every screen, and you listen. Not for gas, not for structural instability, not for a person calling for help. You listen for something else. And if you hear it, you do not go deeper. Tonight, I'm going to tell you about the night I broke that rule. And what had been listening the entire time we were down there. My name is not important. What is important is that I spent 8 years as a certified mine rescue specialist with the Kentucky Mine Emergency Operations Unit. If you don't know what that means, it means that when something goes wrong underground, I am one of the people who goes in after it. I have trained for gas releases, structural collapse, flooding events, and equipment failures. I have been certified by the Mine Safety and Health Administration, which means I have spent a significant portion of my adult life underground, in the dark, in situations that most people cannot imagine. I'm telling you this so you understand what I mean when I say I am not easily unsettled by what happens below the surface. The Blackwater No. 3 complex is located in Harlan County, Kentucky. It was a working bituminous coal seam operation from 1941 until its closure in 1989. At peak operation, it employed 412 men across 3 shifts. It ran 4 levels deep, the lowest reaching approximately 380 feet below the surface. It has been sealed since 1991. I want you to understand what sealed means in the context of a coal mine. It does not mean locked. It does not mean secured. It means that the entry points have been physically closed, bolted, welded, poured over, because the structure below is no longer considered safe for human access. It does not mean empty. It has never meant empty. The call came in on a Friday evening in late March. 3 men, urban explorers, 22 to 26 years old, had entered the Blackwater complex through a compromised secondary shaft on the northern face of the property. They had documented their entry on social media at approximately 9:15 a.m. By 5 p.m., 2 of them had surfaced. The third had not. What complicated the situation was not the missing man. What complicated it was what the 2 who came out were carrying. Or rather, what they said they hadn't been carrying when they went in. Sitting at the base of the main shaft entrance when emergency services arrived was a helmet camera. The lens cracked, the housing dented, still recording. The footage it contained was from inside the mine, from level 3. The timestamp showed it had been recorded at 11:47 a.m. The 2 men who came out said they had last seen their friend, Ryan, 24 years old, from Lexington, at approximately 11 a.m. on level 2. He had not been wearing a helmet camera. None of them had been wearing helmet cameras. No one could explain how the camera got out. Ryan was still inside. Our team assembled at the site by 10 p.m. Four of us. Myself. Our team lead, a man named Vasquez, 17 years, in mine rescue. The kind of deliberate calm that only comes from having been in genuinely bad situations many times. Torres, 5 years, the best air quality reader I have ever worked with. And Riedel, 3 years, strong, quiet, didn't talk until he had something worth saying. We reviewed what we knew. We checked our equipment. We ran a radio baseline test at the shaft entrance. Everything nominal. Vasquez looked at the sealed main shaft for a long moment before he looked at the access point the explorers had used. A narrow secondary shaft cut into the hillside, roughly 3 feet by 4 feet. The original hatch, long since corroded free of its frame. He said nothing. He just pulled on his helmet and went in first. I noticed in that moment that he did not check his compass. Every protocol I had ever trained under specified a baseline compass reading before descent. Vasquez did not take one. I filed it away and followed him into the dark. Underground darkness is not like any other darkness. I want you to understand this before I go further, because it is important. When you stand outside on a moonless night in an overcast sky, there is still ambient light. Your eyes adjust. Shapes become outlines. You can navigate. You are never truly blind. In a sealed mine, 300 feet below the surface, there is no ambient light. There is nothing for your eyes to adjust to. You switch off your headlamp, and you are in darkness so complete, so absolute, that your brain begins to generate its own light. Dim shapes at the edges of your vision that are not there. Your nervous system, faced with total sensory deprivation, starts creating input to fill the void. That is how dark it is inside the Blackwater complex. The first thing I noticed when we entered level 1 was the cold. Not weather cold. This was geological cold. The cold of stone that has never once, in any season, in any year since the mine was cut, been touched by direct sunlight. 34 degrees Fahrenheit at the level 1 junction. The kind of cold that has no agenda. It simply exists, permanently, the way stone exists. My breath came out in plumes that hung too long in the still air before dissipating. The second thing I noticed was the smell. Coal dust. Fine, dry, metallic at the back of the throat. Mineral water from the ceiling drips. Old timber. The particular staleness of air that has been circulating through the same sealed system for 30 years. Not unpleasant, just enclosed. Those were the smells of level 1. I noted them as baseline. Level 2 was different. We reached the level 2 junction at approximately 11:15 p.m. The air quality monitor that Torres carried read normal. Oxygen at 20%, no methane, no carbon monoxide. Everything within acceptable parameters, but the smell had changed. It was subtle. I almost missed it. Something sweet sick underneath the coal dust. The way overripe fruit smells when it has been sealed in a closed container for too long. Not strong, not identifiable. Just present. In a way, it had not been on level 1. Torres caught it too. I saw her pause, raise her head slightly, take 2 careful breaths through her nose. She looked at me. She did not say anything. Vasquez was already moving toward level 3. We found Ryan's pack at the level 2 south junction. Not on the ground, not dropped. The way you drop something when you're moving fast, when something has startled you and you've left it behind without thinking. It was sitting against the left wall. Upright, both compression straps fastened. The top buckle closed. His water bottle was standing beside it. Upright. His headlamp coiled neatly on top of both. Arranged, everything arranged with a care and deliberateness that was entirely inconsistent with a 24-year-old in an unfamiliar abandoned mine who had become separated from his friends. Vasquez crouched beside the pack. He did not touch it. He looked at it for approximately 30 seconds. Then he stood and keyed his radio. Status check. All units confirm. One by one, we confirmed. Then Vasquez said something that I had never, in 8 years of mine rescue, heard a team lead say before a descent. Cut your secondary lights. Headlamps only. And stay quiet. Torres looked at Riddell. Riddell looked at me. We complied. The level 3 access shaft dropped at roughly 30 degrees. A long, low crawl for approximately 40 meters before opening into the main level 3 corridor. The kind of descent that takes concentration, both hands, and measured breathing. The kind of descent that once committed to, you do not back out of quickly. We were 20 meters into the descent when I felt it, through my gloves, through the stone beneath my palms, a vibration. Not the random micro-tremor of geological settling, not the one-time shudder of something shifting in the structure above us. This was rhythmic. 17 seconds of vibration. Low, sustained, felt more than heard, like standing next to a running engine. And then 17 seconds of nothing. Then 17 seconds again. Perfect intervals. I stopped moving. Behind me, Torres stopped. Behind her, Riddell. We lay in that 40-degree shaft in the dark, and we felt that rhythm move through the stone beneath us. 17 seconds on. 17 seconds off. 17 seconds on. Like breathing. Not geological. Not structural. Breathing. Vasquez had not stopped. He was already at the bottom of the shaft, waiting. When I emerged into the level 3 corridor and looked at his face in the headlamp glow, he already knew. The look on his face was not surprise. It was something older than surprise. It was the look of a man who has been waiting for a thing he hoped would not come. Level 3 was wrong in a way that I cannot fully explain with the language I have available. The air quality readings were still nominal. Oxygen, methane, carbon dioxide, all within parameters. Nothing on any instrument indicated a problem. But my headlamp beam, rated for 18 meters at full power. A beam I had relied on in dozens of underground operations reached approximately 4 feet in front of me before it simply stopped. Not fog, not dust. The air was clear. The light just stopped, as if the darkness in that corridor was a substance, and the substance had a surface, and the surface did not allow light to pass through it. I reached out and put my hand into the darkness beyond the 4-foot threshold. I could see my hand in the lamp's beam. I could feel my hand, warm, present mine, but I could not see beyond it. The lamplight terminated at the surface of the dark like light terminates at the surface of black water. I withdrew my hand. Vasquez was watching me. He nodded once, slowly, as if I had confirmed something he had already known. We found Ryan 20 meters east along the level 3 corridor. He was in a chamber. The chamber was not on any map we had been given. The Blackwater Complex survey, filed with the State Mining Commission in 1987, showed solid coal seam at this depth and location. No side chambers, no excavation. This chamber was easily 15 feet across and 8 feet high. Ryan was sitting in the center of it. His back was straight. His hands were open on his knees, palms upward. His eyes were open. He was breathing. He did not respond when Torres said his name. He did not respond when she placed her hand on his arm. He did not flinch at our headlamp beams. He sat, and he breathed, and he looked at the far wall of the chamber with the focused, attentive stillness of someone listening to a voice that only they could hear. The vibration in the floor of the chamber was stronger. 17 seconds on, 17 off. I crouched in front of Ryan and looked at his face. His eyes were tracking something, slowly, rhythmically, moving left to right, in exact time, with the 17-second intervals. And then Ryan spoke. The seam runs north-northwest at 47 meters. Carbon content 68%. Intrusion depth at primary vein 391 feet, secondary formation. He continued. Technical, precise, geological survey language. Specific, accurate, the kind of data that appears in a 1987 Mining Commission report. Ryan was 24 years old. He was an urban explorer from Lexington who worked at a coffee shop. He had no geological training. He had no access to the 1987 survey. The language coming from his mouth was not his. Vasquez grabbed my arm, hard, and then Ryan stopped mid-sentence, and in a voice that was not flat, not technical, not the recitation voice, a voice that was quiet and low and deliberate. He said 4 words. You should not descend. I have replayed those 4 words in my mind more times than I can count. Not because of what they meant, because of how they were said. They were said in Vasquez's voice. Vasquez had not spoken. I was standing 2 feet from him. His mouth had not moved. The sound came from behind us, from the corridor outside the chamber. In a perfect, unambiguous reproduction of his voice, his cadence, the particular unhurried way Vasquez shaped his words. We had been inside the Blackwater complex for less than 2 hours. Whatever was in that chamber had been listening to us for the entire time. Vasquez didn't hesitate. He got his hands under Ryan's arms and he lifted and he said, very quietly, very steadily, to all of us, "We leave now. Same formation, no secondary lights. Move." I took Ryan's other side. We moved. The vibration resumed behind us as we entered the corridor. 17 seconds on. 17 off. It followed us at exactly the same pace we moved. No faster, no slower. Like something enormous, patient, and entirely certain of what it was doing. The ascent back up the level 3 shaft, 40 meters, 30-degree incline, with Ryan between us, took 11 minutes. The longest 11 minutes of my professional life. Ryan was cooperative, but passive. He moved when directed. His eyes were open. He did not speak again. He did not ask where we were going, or what had happened, or how long he had been in that chamber. He simply moved. Torres was at the rear of our formation. She had her headlamp angled behind us the entire time. When we emerged onto level 2, Vasquez radioed surface. 4 personnel plus 1 recovered subject, ascending. ETA, approximately 20 minutes. Condition stable. The surface team acknowledged. We reached the level 2 junction. Ryan's pack still arranged against the wall, exactly as we had found it. And Torres said she was going to check the eastern egress junction. Standard procedure. In a mine rescue, you always verify your exit route before committing to it. Vasquez said, "Stay formation." Torres was already moving. She said, 30 seconds, protocol. 30 seconds passed. Torres did not come back. Vasquez keyed his radio. Torres. Status. Static. Not the static of interference. The static of a radio that is transmitting into nothing. Torres. Confirm position. Nothing. Riedel moved toward the eastern junction. Vasquez stopped him, with one hand on his chest. He shook his head. Once, that was all. We called Torres 11 more times on 2 separate channels before Vasquez made the call. We moved to surface now. We found Torres's radio at the eastern junction entrance, standing upright on a natural stone ledge at exactly chest height, balanced on its bottom edge. The antenna pointed straight up. It had not been dropped. It had not been set down by a person in a hurry. It was balanced there with the kind of precise, careful stillness that requires intention. We did not stop moving. We surfaced at 2:17 a.m. Harlan County. Sky cold clear. Stars I had forgotten existed. The surface team met us at the shaft entrance. Ryan was moved immediately to the waiting medical unit. Responsive, breathing, no physical findings. Pupils normal. No injuries. He did not know where he had been. He did not know how long he had been there. He did not know what he had said. At 2:45 a.m., a member of the surface team called out from the main shaft entrance. She was sitting there. Torres, sitting on the concrete apron at the base of the main shaft. The main shaft, which had been welded shut since 1994, whose steel access plate was physically intact and undisturbed. Sitting upright, eyes open, breathing. her headlamp still on. The eastern egress junction, where she had gone, was 300 feet in the opposite direction from the main shaft. By any route through the mine system, accounting for every mapped tunnel and access point, the minimum distance between those two locations was over 400 meters. She had been missing for 23 minutes. Torres did not speak for the first hour after we found her. When she finally spoke, she said she was cold, and she wanted water, and she did not want to go back inside. She did not say anything else. Not that night. Not in any debrief. Not to the MSHA incident review team that came out 4 days later. She answered their questions. Yes and no. Dates and times. Factual procedural responses. When they asked her to describe what she encountered in the Eastern Junction, she said she did not remember. She said it the way people say, things they have decided, permanently, not to say. Ryan Marsh recovered fully. Physically, the attending physician found no abnormality, no hypothermia, no signs of dehydration inconsistent with 6 hours in a cool environment. No neurological findings on the emergency examination. He was released the following afternoon. He went back to Lexington. He went back to his apartment. He went back to his job. He does not discuss what happened in the Blackwater complex. Not on social media, where he documented every other aspect of his life before that Saturday. Not with the friends who brought him there and surfaced without him. Not with the journalist from a regional paper who reached out 3 months later. He has, as far as I can determine, never spoken about it to anyone. The one change I know about, because his mother mentioned it in passing to someone who mentioned it to me, is that Ryan now sleeps with every light in his apartment on. Every light. Torres submitted her resignation from the Kentucky Mine Emergency Operations Unit 16 days after the Blackwater incident. She moved to Nevada the following month. She texts me occasionally, weather reports, how she's doing in a general, surface-level sense. The kind of text that say, I'm still here without saying anything else. I do not ask her about the Eastern Junction. She does not offer. I still do mine rescue work. 4 years later, I'm still in it. But I carry things now that were not part of my original equipment. I always take a compass, reading at the surface before I descend. And when I reach the level 2 threshold of any mine, any site, anywhere I work, I stop. I cut every light. I stand in the absolute dark. And I listen. Not for gas or structure or a person in distress. I listen for the thing the rule was always about. And on 5 occasions in the last 4 years, 5 separate mines, 5 separate sites, I have heard it. And I have turned around. And I have gone back to the surface. And I have not descended. Whatever's down there, it does not need light. It does not need air, the way we need air. It does not need the mapped, documented, permitted spaces that we dig for ourselves. It was in the stone before the stone was opened. It will be in the stone long after the last shaft is sealed. It is not malicious. I have thought about this for a long time. I do not think it hates us. I think we go into places that belong to it. And it responds the only way it knows how. It listens, it learns, and then it shows us that we were never alone down there. The final incident report for the Blackwater No. 3 operation was filed with the MSHA regional office on April 9th. It classifies the event as a non-injury, non-fatality incident. Missing person recovered. No structural hazard identified. No gas event. No equipment failure. The GPS coordinates of the chamber where we found Ryan, recorded on my personal device at the time, were submitted as part of the report. The MSHA geologist who reviewed the submission flagged an anomaly. According to the 1987 Geological Survey of the Blackwater No. 3 site, the coordinates I submitted correspond to a location that is solid coal seam. No chamber, no excavation, no space. Solid rock. At 391 feet below the surface, nothing should exist at those coordinates. Ryan was there. Ampli exist. We found him there. And something else was there too. Before Vasquez retired, 8 months after Blackwater, he and I had one conversation about what happened that night. One, he chose the time and the place, and he said what he wanted to say, and that was the end of it. I asked him about the rule, the one about level 2, the one about cutting the lights and listening. He looked at me for a moment. Then he said, "Where do you think the rule came from?" He didn't mean that rhetorically. He was telling me something. I asked him what you were supposed to listen for. What exactly? He picked up his coffee. He thought about it for a long time. Then he said 3 words. Just 3. Old dark things. He didn't explain. He didn't need to. I drove home and I sat in my kitchen with every light on, and I thought about what it means for a rule to exist. Not a written rule, not a posted regulation, an unwritten rule, the kind that passes between people in a profession because something happened that could not be explained but absolutely could not be ignored. Rules like that only exist for one reason: because someone, somewhere, at some point in the past, heard the breathing and went deeper anyway. Vasquez said 3 words. Old dark things. Here is what I want to ask you. If you had been at that level 2 threshold, in the dark, in the silence, and you heard the breathing, would you have gone deeper? Would you have told yourself it was geological? Equipment noise? Your own heartbeat amplified by the stone? Or would you have believed the rule? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And if this kept you awake tonight, subscribe.